Agenda item 2. I have received apologies for absence from Councillor Ells. Agenda item 3. Are there any applications for dispensations? Agenda item 4. Are there any disclosures of disclosable pecuniary interests or other significant interests by members? Are there any disclosures by officers? Thank you. Agenda item 5. Are there any disclosures of lobbying? Agenda item 6. Are there any nominations for the election of mayor? Councillor.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I was writing his speech. I'd like to propose Malcolm Frank Greer as mayor-elect.
And have you anything to say?
I do. Oh, sorry, Malcolm, but you did expect that when you asked me to do this. I haven't got time to write your speech now. Last time I stood up here to propose a mayor, I did it with a due sense of dread and trepidation, and in some cases that was warranted. However, this time I stand up to propose the mayor.
I'd like to add, it wasn't me.
No, it wasn't you. It wasn't you. It was a member who's long gone. It wasn't you, as well you know. However, it gives me great pleasure to propose Malcolm Frank Greer as the mayor for the borough for 2017-18. Now, Malcolm and I go back a long, long way. I was elected to this council in 2004, and Malcolm was elected in 2003. So when I first joined the council, I sat somewhere over there, and I sat next to this gentleman called Malcolm Frank Greer, MFG to his cars, and, and he said to me, what are you doing here then? What do you want to do, Chris? I said, well, I've just come from Bexley, I was a councillor there, so I've decided to do this as well. He said, OK, well, I've come here to do something. And how right he was and how driven he was to do that. And then some 6 years later, he and I led this council for some 6 years onwards from 2008. Sorry, 4 years later. 4 years later, we led this council for some 6 years. I was the leader, he was the deputy. And we held sway over the borough for those 6 years. Well, after I'd been to the Muggleton. Anyway, the reason I say this is to give some example of the tenacity and drive that Malcolm has. In his previous life, he was a developer of football grounds. He was an architect. He got involved in all sorts of activities, some nefarious, some not so. But he was driven in his private life. And he was equally as driven in his public life. He pursued a vigorous agenda of growth, housing, developing businesses in particular, and got into the absolute minutiae, which I don't do, but he got into the absolute minutiae of everything in terms of businesses. He drove the high street, whether we like Chinese granite or not, he drove the high street. He helped bring about Kim's with others as well, but he was the driving force behind that. Sometimes he gave the chief executive some concerns, both Petford and Mrs Broome, but he was the driving force helping others along that. So he was tenacious in what he did. However, he wasn't always politically savvy, which may be a good thing. I remember a time when we were going through the high street and he wanted to do the whole thing in one go. And he was determined to do that, and it was absolutely right to do as it transpires. But I was concerned about what the Conservative group that I was leading at the time was thinking in terms of the financing of it, the phasing of it, because they didn't want to go into debt to do it, which I understood, and the group did not want to do that. Malcolm said to me he didn't care. Let's do it anyway. So he was tenacious in what he did, didn't really care what other people thought, but he was right in some circumstances not to think what other people thought. But that shows you his drive and tenacity. And I'll give you another example of that. He is now mayor, which surprises me. I didn't think he would ever want to be mayor, but he is the mayor, or will be the mayor, and he will be an excellent mayor with it as well. But now he is also, over the past year, in his late 70s, now built his own home. And I've seen his home. He's built it from scratch. He bought the land. He's put in the contractors. I think with his sons as well, he has built this house. I've seen it a few times now, and it is a remarkable achievement. And that just gives you another example of the drive and tenacity that Malcolm will bring to his mayoral year. So I think it gives me a great deal of pride and belief in what Malcolm will be doing over the next year. He's already set up a number of charities, I believe, and I believe he will be an excellent mayor for this borough. He will get involved in all sorts of things to a great level of detail, so watch out whoever's the leader of the council this time round. But Malcolm will be an excellent mayor for this year, and it gives me no hesitation to propose him as the mayor. I've got some words here to make it official. And it gives me great pleasure to propose that Councillor Malcolm Greer be duly appointed Mayor of the Borough of Maidstone until the annual meeting of the Council 2018.
Councillor Daly.
Taking all, be it dark or fair, for he's a shaker and a mover. I do know, too, that he's a man of taste. To art he's not a stranger. With music, too, his soul is laced, so culture's not a danger. His outlook blue will no doubt blush, and now be somewhat brighter. His charities will end up flush, their deficits much lighter. So all in all, I look forward to these future days with pride, for the chain is still in steady hands, and we're in for a thrilling ride. Now, Councillor Greer, I have a message and good wishes from an old friend of yours, a man who says he was your old music teacher and who spent many happy hours teaching you, or trying to teach you, to play the alto saxophone. He says you were doing very well and were an excellent pupil. He says you were doing very well there until you had to stop because you went off to join a band called the Moody Blues. We had a chat and we decided that not all was lost, because there was one way in which you could gain some fun and exercise and also acquaint yourself during this next year with a new musical challenge, even whilst you're being shifted about in the mayoral car. Learn another and a new instrument. In times of stress or need to regain attention and refocus, and a means of really keeping your hand in, this instrument is not too demanding but important in any orchestra, does not require tuning, makes itself felt more often than not, like you, quietly but insistently. It does not require a great deal of transportation, scales practice, tuning, or any other time-consuming effort. It does, however, demand the ability to count accurately. So, Malcolm, Mayor-elect, I hope, with the best wishes of me and your old music teacher, in this coming year, strike a new note, and please now get acquainted with your challenge of the year, the triangle. And it gives me, well, do it with a pen. But I have to say the words, don't I? I do second the appointment of Malcolm Greer to the appointment of Mayor.
I call upon Councillor Mrs. Gooch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll follow that. I shall just therefore be short, sharp and sweet. Well, not sharp. Right. Councillor Malcolm Greer. I don't think you'll ever shake off your identity as a well-respected former cabinet member with a strong enthusiasm for Maidstone and with a vision for our borough. as we've just heard. I mean, after all, you're a highly successful businessman, as we all know, and you've always been heavily involved in the economic business side of things, which has got to be good. I know you've worked so hard to sell Maidstone and to bring investment and jobs to the borough, and somehow I think you're going to still carry on doing that, albeit in a slightly different way. Your name is synonymous with the regeneration of the High Street, so I'm not going to mention that because we've heard it all. It's highly appropriate that you should now be the first citizen of the borough, the Mayor of Maidstone. The independent group is confident that you will do a good job as a mayor, with your wife Brenda as mayoress, and I think there you are. I know you'll need to keep a close eye on him. Stop watching hand for those speeches of his. And in fact, he'll always say that he mustn't talk for too long, and then he does. Oh, he'll always find words where others can't. But anyway, we all know that Malcolm will be a safe pair of hands. The independent group congratulates Malcolm on becoming mayor, and we wish him all the very best. So the independent group supports the motion that Councillor Malcolm Greer be duly appointed mayor until the annual meeting of the council in 2018.
Councillor Barnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I was asked to speak in support of Malcolm's nomination as mayor, I promised I wouldn't say anything nasty about him. And probably much to his surprise, I'm going to keep that promise. When I first became a councillor in 2010, one of the first people I met was Malcolm Greer. And it is fair to say that over the last 7 years, we have become good friends. I've also had the pleasure of getting to know his wife, Brenda. During the early years of being a councillor, Malcolm helped me a lot by showing me the ropes, and I was always able to go to him for advice. For that, I will always be grateful. He has a dry sense of humour, much like mine, which is probably one of the reasons we get on so well. This honour bestowed on him and Brenda today is richly deserved, and it couldn't have happened to a nicer couple. So Malcolm and Brenda, on behalf of myself and the UKIP group, congratulations on your upcoming year as Mayor and Mayoress. I hope you have a fantastic time, and I'm sure there will be plenty of fun and laughs along the way. Good luck and enjoy.
Councillor Harper.
Okay. Well, I will keep this short. I obviously haven't known Malcolm as long as other people in the chamber. However, he has passed, in my book, a couple of important tasks over the last few months. Firstly, I think I mentioned this before, he did come to the Fant Wildlife Barbecue last June, and he ate the food I'd actually cooked, and he has obviously lived to tell the tale. So clearly my cooking for our barbecue wasn't too bad. And last weekend, at our Cycle Fest, I discovered that Malcolm, in a previous life, had been a great cyclist who used to enjoy taking part in races and other cycling events. And he actually rolled up his sleeves and took part on our Turbo Challenge. Unfortunately, he didn't come first, but he did very well in the rankings. So, you know, that was something. And then afterwards, he then went on, because he was thirsty, to our smoothie machine and pedalled away on that for more relaxation to make himself a drink on the smoothie machine. So he's also given us some ideas from myself and James in terms of cycling, in terms of some ideas we might like to work with him on in the next year. So I very much look forward to welcoming Malcolm as our new mayor. He will do great work for the borough, and let's all work together with him. Thank you.
And members, is the motion agreed? Thank you.
Mr Mayor. May I congratulate you and wish you all the best in Brenzo over the coming year.
Thank you so much. I will now present the Mayoress with her badge of office. So if you can make it down to the front here, Mrs Greer, we appreciate that. Thank you to all the members that proposed me, spoke for me, etc. I don't recognise that person at all, so perhaps I'll look in the mirror and we'll go from there. Chris, that was the normal type of Chris delivery. Turn up late, fire it, and that's it. But thank you very much. I'm so grateful to all who have supported me to become Mayor of the Borough of Maidstone, the county town of Kent. And we must remember that, county town. This is a tremendous honour, and you can be assured that I will uphold the position to the best of my ability. Also maintain the time-honoured traditions expected of me. I give my special thanks to the outgoing Mayor, Derek Butler, and his Mayoress, Mary. They've worked so hard and supported so many organisations and mayors of other authorities. You don't realise just how much work goes into this job until you actually get there. I'm also grateful that he has passed almost 80 engagements to me. I thought when I started this he'd give me 8, but I think he was just testing me during my apprenticeship to see if I could actually get there, so he kept pushing to me, and it was only this week that I actually passed the line. It's been an invaluable experience to me. I look forward to following in his footsteps, which will be quite difficult. I look forward to working in partnership with the new Deputy Mayor, and I'm sure that between us that we'll maintain the high standards expected of us. During my term as Mayor, and I think as Chris mentioned this morning, the economy of Maidstone has been a prime driver of mine, and to that end I'll be supporting the economy of Maidstone and doing everything I possibly can to work with it. I'm particularly interested in the rural economy, because the rural economy is not all just about green fingers. There's a lot of engineering out there, and we need to get out there and just give them that extra thrust that we are, as a council, behind them. I'm also going to support the fantastic local talent that we have in Maidstone. One of the things I've noticed during my 80 engagements is that we have absolutely an enormous amount of talent, be it singing, dancing, you name it. And what I'm going to do is that I really want to nurture that throughout Maidstone. To this end, MAP, that's the, if I get it right, Maidstone Area Arts Partnership, are holding an international arts festival throughout the town, commencing June the 24th, and culminating in the Mayor's Gala concert to be held at Moat Hall on Saturday, July the 15th, and I trust that you'll all try to be there. This festival will include 18 workshops, 60 live performances, 3 lectures, including international, national and local artists such as Ralph Steadman. So a bit of paint splashed around there. My special thanks go to Ken Scott, Chairman of MAP, for all the time he's dedicated to this. It's absolutely immense the amount of time he's put in there. And also, when you're putting on these events, one of the things you need is money. And we must say a very big thank you to the very generous main sponsor, Allen Firmin Limited, who came to the breach when we had a big hole in our finances and filled it for us. Thank you, Paul and Michael. Of course, all our efforts go to support well-deserved local charities. Last year, Derek and I discussed this, and we decided that we would support the same charities throughout our years. This will be giving them the maximum possible benefit to enable them to plan and do things. These being Blackthorn Trust. I've worked with Blackthorn Trust now for quite some years. Fantastic work they do, and we're now working on a garden project with them, which I trust we will complete within my year. Lung Awareness, another great organisation that do a lot of work in the background, but are absolutely essential. And when we come to people like this, we're talking about volunteers. If it wasn't for the volunteering people within Maidstone, we would struggle. So we need to have, as far as I'm concerned, raise the money to give to these charities to enable people to actually take things forward. And the other one, we're going to support Maidstone Sea Cadets. I know that's very close to a lot of people's hearts. Gentleman on my left-hand side here, sorry, what was your name? Oh, Mr. Nagy, sorry. Not only support them, but he's also a Maidstone United football supporter as well. So, in conclusion, Brenda and I are really looking forward to the coming year, and with the invaluable support of Julie, Russell and Ray, the civic team, who I cannot thank enough. Over the last few months, they've been doing quite a lot of miles with me, putting in events for my year together, and literally, you set them off and they do the job, and that's it. I trust that we will represent Maidstone well. I thank you very much for this wonderful honour and opportunity. Thank you very much. Got a bit of paper. Right, carrying on now, we come to agenda item number 7. I call on Christian, and excuse me, Christian, if I got this wrong, Svedzuk, to do his presentation. Thank you.
The key to any thriving community is harmonious interaction between one another. Students of Maidstone Grammar School pride themselves upon being able to work so well, not just amongst themselves, but also within our local and extended community. Maidstone Grammar School has had a long and established association with the Borough Council for many years, particularly with the Mayor. And it is with this that I say it is an honour, and it is always pleasing to welcome the Mayor to any school event and share with him the values and traditions that we hold dear to ourselves. On behalf of Maidstone Grammar School, I wish Councillor Greer a very successful tenure and look forward to welcoming him to MGS in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. That was absolutely perfect, and I'll do my best to visit your school and pick you out as well. I now call on Steph Gunner. Thank you.
As head student at Maidstone Grammar School for Girls, I feel extremely privileged to be able to welcome you, Councillor Greer, as our new Mayor of Maidstone, and to congratulate you on your new position. I know that it will be a year of many successes and will be rewarding for both you and the people of Maidstone. Since the opening of the school in 1888, Maidstone Grammar School for Girls has supported its students, both academically and personally. Along with the school's outstanding examination results, the students leave with a passion for learning, as well as being well-rounded young people. We are also extremely proud of our non-academic traditions, such as Rag Week, Sports Day and the annual House Arts production. These events are enjoyed greatly by students and staff, and on behalf of the school, I'd like to warmly invite you, Mr Mayor, to visit Maidstone Grammar School for Girls and to attend one of the many events that we hold. We would love to show you our recently opened sports hall, named in memory of our Chair of Governors, Mrs Molly Tipples, as I'm aware you've been involved in building other sporting venues. As a school, we would be delighted to learn more about your upcoming role and where we can help with your projects over the next year. On behalf of all the students and staff at MGGS, we wish you well for your year of office. Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. Absolutely first class. And yes, I'd love to come visit your school. Thank you very much. I'd like now to just say, do a presentation to the scholars. So if you'd like to come forward to the front here, appreciate it. Thank you. I now call on Councillor Blackmore to move a motion thanking Councillor Derek Butler and Mary Butler. Annabelle.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. That's incredibly kind. Where is he? When there's a bit of musical chairs going on, you need to find the right person. Sorry, Derek, I haven't got my reading glasses, so if I can't find my notes and I'm suddenly reaching across Marion's desk, you know why. So forgive me for that. Councillor Derek Butler and Mrs Mary Butler, you're such a charming and lovely couple, and there really are not enough superlatives in the dictionary to describe how you've undertaken your duties this year. I can't believe it's been a whole year since I stood here and I was talking about Dirty Derek. Now, for those of you who were not here, let me recap. The charming former mayor, who has just retired, was at my house with other councillors, and cars were stuck in the mud. And as we tried to pull said cars out, our delightful deputy mayor of the time slipped into a very muddy, wet ditch and emerged with mud up to his waist. At that point, I had to raid my son's wardrobe to find a pair of trousers and a hoodie, and Derek duly disrobed and changed. And the clothes took about 2 months to come back to me. So that was Dirty Derek. We now have Darling Derek, because Derek has become the darling of the borough. And he's been kind, he's been warm, he's been a fantastic exemplar to all of us. He's carried out his duties with a smile on his face and with the best grace you can imagine, and dignity too. And there are times you get up in the morning and you don't want to put a smile on your face. And I think Derek and Mary have done that with great aplomb. So I would like to give my personal thanks. I would also like to give my thanks on behalf of the Conservative group that the Council gives its hearty thanks to Councillor Derek Butler and Mrs Butler for the admirable discharge of their duties as Mayor and Mayoress during the past year and for their courteous approach to all sections of the community. Thank you to both of you and have a lovely holiday because I think you both deserve it. And after that, Derek, get back to that gym and sort your waistline out.
A call on Councillor Nagy to second that.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The year has certainly gone quite fast, and I would like to have had another table tennis round with Derek, but the election got in the way there. Someone called an election all of a sudden, so it's messed the schedule up a bit, but I'm sure we'll catch up at some time or other. But in all my years as a councillor, I think this has been one of the most happiest years for Mayor and Mayoress, and I think that's what Derek and Mary have brought to it this year, one of the happiest ones that I can remember, and I think that sums up what sort of people they are, really. Very genuine, warm, friendly people. And when it came up for Derek, he did give me a call and did say, well, if you was going to do it, Dave, you know, you carry on, but different times then. And I was very glad for Derek to go ahead and do it, and I think that's turned out to be about right decision at the time. And the other thing about Derek, when he picked the Sea Cadets as well, I was very grateful for that, because obviously everyone knows about the Sea Cadets, but just trying to get that extra bit of money every year is a bit of a struggle. And like Mr Mayor was saying about getting volunteers to help, it's a dying thing, volunteering. Very hard to keep people going, to keep volunteering, because it seems to be we're getting less and less volunteers, but those volunteers seem to do more and more. And I think with the support of, I keep wanting to say Mr Mayor because we have the changeover now, but with Derek and Mary, I think they've given the unit a great support this year, and I'd like to thank Mr Mayor for that as well, for carrying on to do that, and hopefully I will carry it on as well, and I think that couldn't be better for my particular charity that I support. And I just think it's going to, obviously going to have a bit of a break from all that, but I think there'll be a bit of a wind down, because I suppose they'll still be expecting to go to functions. But one thing over the years, though, I think I've become a bit more personal friends with Derek and Mary, rather than just councillors and stuff like that. And I tend to have that over the years. I tend to gain more friends than just councillors, because I think that's just me. But I'd just like to thank them on behalf of my group for a very warm, friendly, one of the most friendliest ones that I can remember years as Mayor and Mayoress, and I thank them for that.
Thank you. Now call on Councillor Gooch.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Congratulations to you, Mr Mayor. Back to Derek Butler. Oh, Derek. Oh. When Derek became Deputy Mayor in 2015, I didn't know a huge amount about him, and I just described him from my own experience as a councillor of politeness, patience and astuteness, because we'd met on the audit committee, I think. And I could never catch you out of the corner of my eye when I was chairman. But when Derek became mayor in 2016, it was clear from the impression that he made on one of my local residents. Do you remember she said, "Oh, isn't he charming?" I thought, oh dear. But she was charmed by him. And it was clear that he would be incredibly conscientious, and that with his wife, lovely wife Mary, they would really want to do well. Oh, and they certainly did do well, didn't they? Well, first of all, as you know, the role of mayor includes presiding over our council meetings, so that business can be carried out efficiently and hopefully respectfully. Derek performed this role superbly, with his polite firmness, patience, clarity and gentle humour. Mary has been a sweet and affectionate mayoress. Thank you, Mary. As mayor, Derek has been interesting as well as interested. That's quite important, actually. He's been really caring with the people he's met and well informed. He would do a lot of homework on whatever function or event he was about to attend, and he was genuinely moved by things. Derek recognised and appreciated the work that our parish councils do, and he even held a special tea for them here at the town hall. I believe many organisations and individuals will have been touched by their kindness, love and affection that our past mayor and mayoress imparted. I know I've been touched by that. Thank you both very much indeed. And so it is on behalf of the independent group, I'll have to read this out, that the hearty thanks of this council be given to Councillor Derek Butler and Mrs Mary Butler for the admirable discharge of their duties as mayor and mayoress during the past year, and for their courteous approach to all sections of the community. Well done, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gooch. I now call on Councillor Powell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can you hear me? Is it, oh, it's working now. Okay. I do like that word, darling Derek. So I shall second you on that, Councillor Blackmore. Somebody once said to me, if ever you did a project, how would you like to be remembered at the end of it? Well, I was thinking about this for Derek, and this is almost like an appraisal today. It was a lovely appraisal, but what more can I say than what a lovely chap. He's got a permanent smile. I don't quite know what the reason for that is, Derek. He just never leaves you. Yeah, we'll have to have a personal chat. You've got an amazing sense of humour, and you're always willing to go that extra mile to help and encourage others. I've worked with Derek this year on a charity project where you've not only been a big help to that charity, but you've also been a major inspiration to them. I get telephone calls from them and say, isn't he a lovely chap, that mayor? Because everybody thinks on the outside, well, that the mayors are so serious, and well, they possibly are at times, but that tends to be when they're at home as opposed to when they're at the council, yeah. But Derek, even with an incredibly busy schedule, you've always made time to help. Derek also had another side to his character. So it's customary for Harwich and Parish Council to invite a mayor along every January to one of their meetings. And Derek and Mary joined us this year. And after the meeting, we normally have a few drinks. The conversation was flowing, and that wasn't all. Time was flying, and at the end of the evening, I looked around and noticed there was only Derek and Mary, Lorraine and myself, somebody jangling some keys, and the chauffeur. Everybody else had gone. But enough said about that, because I really do understand what the mayor's car's all about now. Yeah. Oh dear. But Derek, you've done Maidstone proud. And we, as the UKIP group, are absolutely honoured to have had both yourself and Mary as our mayor and mayoress. So thank you ever so much, and God bless you both.
Thank you, Councillor Powell. I now call on Councillor Harper. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Derek and Mary have had a very good year as mayor and mayoress, as we've already heard. They've attended dozens of events around the borough. They've represented the council at community events around Maidstone and outside of Maidstone, and hosted people to our town. And they've both, during this time, performed in a very dignified, fun and personable manner to be an exemplar of what Maidstone is. So really, I'd just like to thank both Derek and Mary for all the work they've done for our borough and all of our communities in the last year.
Thank you, Councillor Harper. Does the Council approve the motion? Thank you. I now call on Councillor Butler to reply, please, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you all. Thank you all for your kind words, and the Mayor's car will be missed. I declare that I have had a wonderful time as the Mayor of Maidstone. The time has certainly gone extremely fast, and as Annabel said, it certainly doesn't seem that I was elected Mayor a year ago. It's been a true honour and a privilege to have represented Maidstone Borough Council, the county town of Kent, as its Mayor. I have met some wonderful people during this time, and the experience is something I will never forget. This is a superb place to live, and there are truly good and amazing people living in the borough. I have been able to discover so much more about Maidstone than I ever dreamed of, from the nuclear bunker in Braychurch Solicitors in London Road, Maidstone, to the secret garden commemorating the grave of the unknown Battle of Britain pilot in Chart Sutton. On behalf of Maidstone Borough Council, I had the great pleasure and honour to welcome Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal to Maidstone when she visited the Save the Children shop. She is the patron for Save the Children, and this was in Union Street on the 4th of May 2017. The effect she had on the staff there was truly astounding. There have been 19 carol concerts and 32 garden parties, which I have attended. All in all, about 310 events in that year. It is the people I've met during this year that I will really remember, and so many of them volunteers from all sections of the community. There are too many to mention here today. I have enjoyed support from so many people during this year, and I would like to thank them all, including my daughter Georgina and my son-in-law Gareth and his mother Shirley, who are here today still supporting me. I would like to put on record my sincere thanks to Councillor Malcolm Greer and Mrs Brenda Greer, who have performed so admirably well as Deputy Mayor and Deputy Mayoress of Maidstone. Now, as the Mayor and Mayoress of Maidstone, I give you my best wishes and hope you have a wonderful time during your year. You have my full support. I have also enjoyed help from former mayors when there have been clashes with events, and I thank all of you who have represented the borough at these events. I would also like to thank the officers who have contributed so much to make the year go so smoothly, particularly my thanks to Alison Broom, the Chief Executive, who has guided me during the council meetings. Thank you. My thanks also to the mayoralty team, who I believe are not valued enough, but have gone the extra mile in helping me and my wife Mary during this year. So many thanks to Julie, Russell and Ray, who we will miss enormously. I would also like to thank all who have supported me at my charity events and the charities, the Blackthorn Trust, Kent Lung Awareness and Maidstone Sea Cadets are extremely grateful for the monies they have received. Last, but by no means least, I thank my dear wife Mary, my Irish Colleen, who was sceptical about even becoming the Deputy Mayoress. She has been with me every step of the way, and she has fully embraced her role as Mayoress, far more than I could ever imagine, and given me support in so many ways. I'm now thinking of how I can repay her, maybe if I lost a bit of the weight which I've gained during the mayoral year. But no regrets, just many, many thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. I will now present the retiring Mayor and Mayoress with medallions and gifts commemorating their year of office. We now move back to agenda item number 8. Is it agreed that items on the agenda are taken in public? Thank you. Agenda item 9. I move that the minutes of the meeting of the Borough Council held on the 12th of April 2017 be approved as correct record. Agreed. Thank you. Item number 10. Could I have nominations for the appointment of Deputy Mayor, please? Councillor English.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. First of all, may I congratulate you on assuming your new office. When Councillor Nagy asked me to move this notion immediately, I was slightly confused because I wasn't quite sure what he was asking me, because you may not be aware that Councillor Nagy, my dear friend David, is the only person in this chamber who is actually qualified to run for office as President of the United States, because as he was actually born in the USA. I was thought about bringing a Bruce Springsteen tape along this morning, but I couldn't quite get the sound system. But that would have been interesting. No, seriously, I've known Dave Nagy, for a very long time, and it is my sincere honour and pleasure to move that Councillor David Sandhu Nagy be duly appointed Deputy Mayor for the Borough of Maidstone until the annual meeting of the Council in 2018. Now, there are many qualities needed to be a Deputy Mayor and, in due course, a Mayor. What I didn't realise until I went to an event or two, first with Councillor Richard Fick, as he was then, and then later with the just retired Mayor of Maidstone, Councillor Derek Butler, was the ability to sing, apparently, especially in French, what appears to be needed. Unfortunately, I don't think Councillor Nagy will meet that qualification, although I will treasure your recording of Je ne regrette rien for many, many years, Councillor Butler. What Dave Nagy does possess is an overwhelming enthusiasm. He is like a force of nature when he is involved in an event or an activity that he wants to see progressed. And that is going to be very, very helpful when he is Deputy Mayor. And the other great talent that I have observed over the years is his amazing ability to relate to an enormous breadth of people. Everywhere I go in High Street Ward, some of you may know that I am something of a supporter of the nighttime economy. Everywhere I go in Maidstone, whether it's joining to the establishments of an evening and nighttime economy, or to restaurants or sports clubs or activities, and I talk about the council, or they know I'm a councillor, and they say, "Do you know Dave Nagy?" And I say, yes, of course, and they always, and the common theme that comes through for those people who know Dave and those who have the, who are his constituents in East Ward, is their high respect for his ability to listen, to represent them, to relate to them. And whatever else you need as a deputy mayor, you need that ability to talk to people, to understand people and to connect with them. And Dave Nagy, in all the activities he takes part in this borough, and there's a tremendous range of activities. We all know his great connection with Maidstone United Football Club. Any Saturday in a home match, you will see Dave there steadily supporting one of our major sports teams. You've heard a bit about his involvement with the Sea Cadets. Some of you will know about his previous involvement with the Maidstone River Festival. But that's just scratching the surface. And I have to say that there have been many different deputy mayors over the years. Everyone brings something different to it. We've been very lucky in Maidstone that almost everyone who's done that job has been a success. But they've all brought different qualities and done it in a different way. Dave Nagy's style is very hands-on, people-friendly, and I think he will be a tremendous success as Deputy Mayor of the Borough of Maidstone, and it gives me great pleasure to move his name forward for that post. Dave, you will certainly have my active support in the year to come, and I'm very grateful for the support you gave me when I was Mayor of Maidstone.
Thank you, Clive. I now call on Derek Butler, who's going to second. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
It gives me great pleasure to second Councillor David Nagy as the Deputy Mayor of Maidstone for 2017-2018. David is a well-known, likeable character, known by so many people in Maidstone. Everywhere I go, people say, "Oh, do you know David Nagy?" We both became councillors in 2002, and I have great respect for him. I know he will make an excellent Deputy Mayor and ultimately an excellent Mayor for Maidstone. As I've mentioned in the past, Councillor Nagy has Maidstone flowing through his veins, and I recommend him wholeheartedly to this position as Deputy Mayor of Maidstone for 2017-2018. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. I now call on Councillor Gooch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What bugs me about having to say these things is that everything has been said, and I prepared my speech. I've been scratching through things that, Clive, you've pinched half my lines, but you didn't say that at least Councillor Nagy, bless him, can do something that Arnold Schwarzenegger can't do. So you missed out that bit. And funnily enough, I also wanted to add that, Dave, you've been here since you were 3. You came straight to Maidstone from New Jersey, I believe, in the States. So at least I've got something in about your past life. I know you attended Vinters Boys School and went on to attend the Medway College of Design. And after 5 years apprenticeship, you went into, you had your apprenticeship with the Goodsall's Builders. Was that right? Yes, I've got something right, I think. But you've been in the building trade ever since. And as Councillor Butler has just said, Dave does admit that Maidstone runs through his veins, and so it should. He's lived here for 57 years. Actually, Dave is very much a chatty, friendly, welcoming sort of person. He describes himself as being very much down to earth. I do know that Dave feels that it will be a great honour to serve as Deputy Mayor and as Mayor, and the independent group gives him our very best wishes to you, Dave. Therefore, on behalf of the group, I support the motion that, if I can find it, that Councillor David Sandranaghi be duly appointed Deputy Mayor for the Borough of Maidstone until the annual meeting of the Council in 2018. Congratulations, David.
Thank you. I now call on Councillor Newton.
Got it, thank you. Well, Councillor Nagy, I've known you for 51 years. Now, I'm not going to give your age away, but I know your mum and your dad would have been, well, your mum is very proud of you for being, standing as Deputy Mayor, and I know you will make an absolute fantastic job of the Deputy Mayorship and the mayoralty of this town. You know, you're so extrovert, your passion for things, your passion for the River Festival, and when I was Chair of Heritage, Culture and Leisure, it was constant. But you're right, we do need to make more of the river, and your support of the Sea Scouts is absolutely fantastic. However, having come from America as a young child, and I know you have an American passport, and, of course, Maidstone has a massive history, a big history with the USA. We have the Washington Memorial in the All Saints Church, and the Cornwallis family signed it away, signed America away. So there is a lot of contact with America, obviously, and hopefully, as you progress to be the Mayor of Maidstone, could you not use your contacts to possibly invite the President of the United States, Donald Trump, to come to Maidstone? Well, you have to use your contacts in this world, and I'm certain at the present time Donald Trump would like a little bit of pressure taken off him. But if he's still in power, well, perhaps Councillor Nagy would like to invite him on behalf of Maidstone. Anyway, we'll conclude that on that note, and you have the support of the UKIP group. Everybody else has said other things about you that I totally support, but you have the support of the UKIP group in your coming year as Deputy Mayor of Maidstone. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Councillor Newton, for that. Councillor Harper, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The problem with speaking last is that people like Clive and Fay have already preempted half of what I thought was original comments. So forgive me if it's a bit repetitive. David Nagy has worked very hard in his ward and has close working relationships with his constituents, as his many election victories testify. He has served on many committees and is a loyal member of his party. Former Mayor Morel de Sousa has reminded me of the occasion when David appeared with his election bus outside our Labour committee room, blaring on his megaphone to vote Lib Dem. He allegedly did this as a joke, but our election agent asked him in the most impolite of terms to move his van on. I was naming no names. I happen to know that David is a proud Jersey boy and would be entitled to stand for election as President of the USA, as has already been said. I think for the benefit of the world, he should seriously consider this. I also happen to know that he's a stalwart at Maidstone United. Perhaps he could be a different type of Jersey boy by getting me a discount off the new Maidstone United jersey. Anyway, David, many congratulations on your appointment and good luck for the next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other nominations? No? Is the motion agreed? Thank you. David, you've got to get your coat on.
I, David Sandrinagi, having been appointed to the office of Deputy Mayor of Maidstone Borough Council, declare that I take the office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. Wow, follow that. I'd like to thank everyone for nominating me, my fellow colleagues, councillors, and all those special words. And Mr D'Souza, do you remember that one? I forgot I was in my van with stuff on it, so I pulled up to see Mr D'Souza. Just forgot I had all my stuff on it, so that was quite a funny event, actually. Forgot about that, because Mr D'Souza actually used to work with my dad years ago in Tilling Stevens, if you remember that. So there was another connection there. But congratulations, Mr Mayor, on your appointment. And hopefully I will give you the support that you're expecting of me in your coming year. And I'll do my best to do whatever I can on that one. And I'm sure you'll make me do that as well, just to keep me on my toes. I'll keep it short because time is moving on. So I'd like to thank everyone for those very warm words. And hopefully I will be what the office expects of me in this forthcoming year. And thank you for those lovely comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David, and have a good year as Deputy Mayor. I did, and I can assure you that you will have a few little trips to do, but I'm sure you'll be able to do this right. I will now present the Deputy Mayor with his badge of office. Agenda item number 11. Firstly, I'd just like to welcome Councillor Spooner to his first council meeting. These are the type of announcements that I don't like making. Daniel Moriarty, as we know, passed recently. And it's sad to think that about a year ago he was sitting in this seat. And what a great chap. And it just shows just how fragile life can be. Daniel, I got to know when I was a cabinet member and all the support that he gave me. And he was very, very enthusiastic about driving Maidstone. And I think that's where we worked together so well. He was a true gentleman. I never heard him say anything bad about anybody, but I'm sure he did mumble at times. as we all do, and that's it. I think also things I can remember is that when I attended events, we were standing outside, the first thing you would do was welcome you in, come in, join us, and look after you. I find it very hard to think that Daniel is not with us anymore. Not only do I have Daniel, but we do have Mrs. Ash as well. Christine was a very, very elegant lady. She was mayoress to Richard about 10 years ago, if I recall correctly. She was a very, very elegant lady, a very nice lady to talk to, very positive, very much like Richard. And you can see why they got on so well. The thing about Christine, not only being lovely, elegant lady, she carried out her duties absolutely first class. And whenever I saw her at any events, she was absolutely immaculate. The thing that I take on board with Christine is she's one of the few women that I know that can wear a hat. And when I mentioned this to her, and I said, well, you must have 1 million hats. She said, no, very clever lady. She went and hired them. And the ones that she didn't hire, she invariably got from second-hand shops and would just titivate them. A great lady, two great people. You'll be sadly missed. I now call on Councillor Gooch. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The group echoes your warm words about people that have left us and no longer with us. In particular, Councillor Daniel Moriarty. He was first elected as Labour councillor for Parkwood in 2001, and he then joined the Lib Dems, lost his seat in 2010, but he returned to the council as an independent in 2012. We enjoyed having him with us. He was very much a gentleman, very gentle sense of humour. He would sit there with a twinkle in his eye. We have very fond memories of him. He really knew his ward, and he empathised with his residents. He took his work so seriously. And as you say, it's strange. He served as mayor of this borough from 2015 to 2016. It's so recent. He was so proud of being mayor. He enjoyed it so much, and he brought kindness, understanding and compassion to the role. But, you know, he was a very private man, although his health wasn't always kind to him, none of us knew how ill he was. Just rest in peace, Danny.
Thank you. Councillor Perry, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe we were all saddened and shocked when we received the email informing us that Daniel Moriarty had died. As you said, it seems only yesterday that he was mayor and chairing these very council meetings. Daniel had many qualities, but there's one in particular that I want to highlight today. This was his ability to connect with people. He was above all a people person, and I have first-hand knowledge of this. During his year as mayor, he visited a care farm in our ward. Care farms are organisations which are set up to help young disabled people and people with learning difficulties to work with farm animals. And they also give parents precious breathing space. Daniel was in his element, talking to the children and to the parents as well. As borough councillors, we represent different factions and beliefs. But I believe that regardless of party loyalties, we all have one thing in common. which is we want to make a difference for the benefit of our residents and the borough. And Dan, in his own quiet way, epitomised this, which is how I personally want to remember him. Our thoughts are with his family at this sad time, and especially his niece, who acted as his mayoress. And could I also add that I would like to echo your thoughts regarding Christine Ash. Our thoughts are with Richard and his family at this very sad time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members.
Thank you. Mrs. Wilson, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Over the time I've been a councillor, and it's a considerable number of years now, we've had several very sad occasions when we've either lost people who are members of the council or who have left, and then we hear that they're no longer with us. I don't remember an occasion when we've lost two such people in such quick succession that everybody has similar regard for. Starting with Daniel Moriarty, he's a thoroughly decent person, kind, and his integrity shone through no matter which political party he was a member of. And I think I can give him the greatest accolade of anybody, because my daughter has a healthy scepticism, of obvious reasons, of politicians great and small. But she was a resident in Parkwood, and she actually said to me when I told her how saddened she was, because he was the best ward councillor she had ever known. And she had really known him because he had actually assisted her with an extension to her house in the way that only a councillor can, in giving advice about how to go about things. And I think that is possibly one of the greatest accolades you can give a councillor or an ex-councillor, that they were loved not only and admired by the people who knew them professionally, but also by the people they represented. I'm equally saddened to hear about Christine, because I can't repeat again what everybody said. Again, a thoroughly lovely lady who is an utter credit to Richard, who I feel very, very sorry for when he was mayor, and a credit to him and a support all the way through. So for all our group, I give our condolences to the families of both these people that will be sadly missed, not only by their families, but by all who knew them.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Powell.
Yeah, so it's an extremely kind of sad time talking about Dan. It was only a couple of weeks ago that I was knocking on his door in the hope that he might have put the kettle on for me. Because he said that. He said, Eddie, if ever you're in the area, and obviously I was doing the county elections, and in fact I stopped there a couple of times and was quite surprised actually when there was nothing there, although the car was outside. But just walking around, just talking to people, just to quote, he was a caring man who worked extremely hard for his ward. Another person said he was very principled. Another one said he had a wicked sense of humour. And another person said he was a bit of a character when he was younger. You obviously know Dan a lot better than I did. But I wasn't actually kind of standing in the council when he was the mayor. But I was the chairman of Harwich Parish Council, the notorious Harwich Parish Council, as it will probably become. And I welcomed him to one of our meetings when he gave a really humorous speech on Dan's way of doing mayor. Dan wanted to be with people. He was a people's person. It's all he cared about was other people. And, you know, on a personal level, is all I would like to say is if I can just remember him in the same as that first quote. He was a caring man. And he will be extremely missed by the people that knew him well. And I don't really know what to say about the death of Christine. I met her a couple of times, and she was a very warm, welcoming person. And my thoughts, or all of the thoughts of our group, are certainly with Richard and the family. Very sad, and they'll both be missed. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harper.
Like everybody else, it was very sad to hear of Daniel's death only a few days ago. He was our mayor, as has been said, only just over a year ago, so it really seems even more of a surprise. And he's only just come off the council, whereas you then got your life, your life comes back and you've got it looking forward to. But I think we should celebrate his life as someone who, from working class origins, achieved a lot for himself and for his family and people who knew him. He obviously, as we heard earlier, started off on the Labour benches here in 2001, got itchy feet, joined the Liberals, then came back an independent. So he's tried out all the groups on the council apart from the Conservatives. So that's probably a record in itself. But his heart was representing Parkwood. That was always very close to his heart, as we've heard, and it was his driving force as a councillor and as a community activist. And he worked tirelessly for Parkwood. And that, in my book, is the best tribute I can give to Daniel.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bryce. Do you want to say something?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. On a slightly different note to the condolences that we've shared today, I just wanted to speak very briefly to pass on, I'm sure, the thanks and recognition on behalf of all councillors to those who give up their time on this Saturday to enable this event. And I just wanted to recognise the Parks team, the street cleansing team, the officers who we often see before us, and those who work so hard behind the scenes, as well as our fantastic police officers. So I'm sure you'll join me in offering our recognition and thanks once again to all of our wonderful team in Maidstone who make today happen. Many thanks.
Thank you. Agenda item 12. Could I have nominations for the election of leader of the council, please?
Mr Mayor, I'd like to nominate Councillor Fran Wilson for the position.
All right, that's fine.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to nominate Councillor John Perry.
A second. Sorry, it's been seconded. We just have two, and that's it. So, nobody's asked for a name vote? No? So, can we just move to the... No, just ask them. They don't want a name vote. Do we need a name vote? No? Well, let's go to the vote. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, no one's called.
Members, thank you. Could you show me who's in favour of Councillor Wilson, please? Thank you. Councillor Perry? Sorry?
Did you intend to vote?
We haven't voted. I'll vote for Berry.
You can ask people to put their hands down.
Right. Members, thank you. Voting was 29 for Councillor Wilson, 25 for Councillor Perry. Congratulations. You are now the leader for the ensuing municipal year. Thank you very much.
Mr Mayor, can I just make my first job to congratulate you on your appointment as Mayor?
Thank you very much for that.
The front door.
And have a good year. Could I have nominations for the appointment of Deputy Leader of the Council, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Congratulations also. I'd like to nominate Councillor Faye Gooch.
I'll take your seconding then. Right. Okay. Are there any other?
Mr Mayor, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Councillor John Barnard.
Do we have a seconder for that, please? Yes. Garland, yes. Right. Are there any more nominations? Members? Members, show a hand for Councillor Gooch, please. I'll go for Gooch. Councillor Barnard. Were there any abstentions? 2. 3. Thank you, members. Voting was Councillor Faye Gooch, 29. John Barnard, 22. So, Faye, you are now Deputy Leader. Thank you very much. Agenda item 14, allocation of seats on committees. I called upon the Head of Policy and Communications to submit a report to the Council.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I commend my report to the Council.
Do I have a seconder?
No. You have to have somebody to move it first. So
Oh, sorry, Fran, got it wrong. It's over to you, and then I'll get a seconder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that the allocation of seats on committees be as set out in Appendix A to the report of the Head of Policy and Communications.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Perry.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Is the motion agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Agenda item 15, appointment of committees. I look to the leader.
Thank you again, Mr Mayor. I move that the Council accepts the wishes of the group leaders with regard to the appointment of committees and substitutes.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I second that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perry. Is the motion agreed? Agreed. Agenda item 16, to adopt the Constitution, including schemes of delegation and recent updates. Leader.
Thank you. I move that the Constitution, including the scheme of delegation and recent updates, be adopted.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Perry. Thank you.
I second that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the motion agreed? Thank you. The Council is now acting. The Council is now acting as corporate trustee of the charity known as the Cobtree Manor Estate. Item 17, allocation of seats on the Cobtree Manor Charity Committee. I call upon the Head of Policy and Communications to submit a report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I commend my report to Council.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that the allocation of seats on the Cobtree Manor Estate Charity Committee be as follows. Conservative 2, Liberal Democrats 2, Independent 1.
Do I have a seconder?
I second that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Is the motion agreed? Thank you. Agenda item 18, appointment of Cobtree Manor Estate Charity Committee. Look to the leader. I will.
We're getting in our rhythm now, Mr Mayor. I move that the Council accepts the wishes of the group leaders with regard to the appointment of members and substitutes to serve on the Cobtree Manor Estate Charity Committee.
Do I have a seconder?
I second that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Is the motion agreed? Thank you. The Council is now acting as corporate trustees of the Queen's Own West Regiment Museum Trust. Agenda item 19, allocation of seats on the Queen's Own Royal West Regiment Museum Trust Committee. I called upon the Head of Policy and Communications to submit a report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I commend my report to Council.
Leader.
Thank you. Excuse me. I move that the allocation of seats on the Queen's Own Royal West Kent Regiment Museum Trust Committee be as follows. Conservative 2, Liberal Democrats 2, UKIP 1.
Thank you, Leader. Do I have a seconder?
I second that. Thank you.
Councillor Perry, thank you very much. Is the motion agreed? Thank you. Agenda item 20, appointment of the Queen's Own Royal West Kent Regiment Museum Trust Committee. Leader.
Thank you. Last but by no means least, I move that the Council accepts the wishes of the group leaders with regard to the appointment of members and substitutes to serve on the Queen's Own Royal West Kent Regiment Museum Trust Committee.
Do I have a seconder?
I second that. Thank you.
Councillor Perry, thank you very much. Is the motion agreed? Thank you. For all those members taking part in the civic parade, robes are available in the Beauvais room. Before I declare this meeting closed, I'd just like to thank everybody for their attendance this morning. Guests, members, officers, and a thank you to Debbie. Worked so hard over the years, done a lot for us over the years, and Thank you very much. She didn't want me to say it, but I'm going to. That is my prerogative. Thank you very much. I now close the meeting. Thank you.
No,